Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 92. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about my painting, modeling, and working experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week. How could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop came out with some really cool models and showed off like a little sneak preview of a very confusing model. And holy cow, there's a bunch of other stuff. But let's get to the spooky little model first. Life on Necromunda is rat eat rat, because I guess there's no dogs on Necromunda, so it's not dog eat dog, it's rat eat rat. And Games Workshop showed off some Ripper Jacks, and they are horrifying. And I absolutely love them. This is, I feel like every now and then something comes out for Necromunda, which is like, that's not Warhammer, that looks completely different from anything else Games Workshop has ever made. And these look very different. They're so weird. They're just flesh and scary mouths and tentacles and spikes and beautifully painted. Like Games Workshop, the painting is weird at Games Workshop because typically they'll stick to the heavy metal style where everything is kind of flat and, base coat, wash, highlight. But it seems like sometimes, especially like the first time the painting team is like tasked with doing something like fleshy kite bat skin, they just completely go wild and do like a perfect job of it, because these models are beautiful. The disgusting reddish tinge at all the joints. They free-handed these little veins running through the bat wings. It's absolutely grotesque and I love it. It's so weird and creepy. I was a little surprised and a little disappointed when I saw that this article was about new monsters and a Beastmaster, because the Beastmasters are a Dark Eldar thing. Well, they're not just a Dark Eldar thing because they exist in Necromunda too, but recently the Dark Eldar from Games Workshop had their range like cut in half because they removed all of the resin miniatures. And they haven't replaced them yet with like their new plastic equivalents, which I'm waiting for because the Dark Eldar are so cool. I'm sorry, the Drukhari. I'm sure none of you knew what I was talking about. They're called the Drukhari, not the Dark Eldar now. But those models, like, they need to come back. They're in the codex. Some people who bought them before they were removed have them in their armies and are playing with them. Like, they should exist. And I'm really excited to see them come back because there's some really cool stuff, kind of stuff along the lines of this. But you can't buy them. Games Workshop. They said that it was going to be a range rotation type of situation, but they never explained what range rotation is actually going to be. When are things going to come back in stock? Like, if they said every 2 years we're going to sell all of the old, like, for Finecast stuff, that would be fine. But range rotation just means we've gotten rid of it. We might bring it back for like a 1 week pre-order type situation and then have it be gone forever again. It's really frustrating, and I think that they should either solidify what the range rotation is going to mean, or just replace things with a new, fresh, shiny, beautiful plastic kit. But, and I could totally see these Ripper Jacks in a Dark Eldar Drukhari army. They look lovely and spooky and scary. They're a little bit the Minox from Star Wars. They're a lot of bit the Flesh Kites from D&D. And Games Workshop has taken from D&D a lot, probably because way back in the day, like, 1977, when like Games Workshop started making miniatures for games, they were selling D&D. They were the British retailer for Dungeons & Dragons, this new popular American game. And so they made books and miniatures for Dungeons & Dragons, and a lot of those things made their way into 40K. I know the Ambles have a D&D equivalent, or a thing that they ripped off from D&D to bring it into 40K. The Chimeras for the Dark Eldar are basically the displacer beasts from Dungeons and Dragons. And I think part of it is theft, but part of it is also just Dungeons and Dragon monsters are just classic monsters. And so they don't they own the displacer beast, but they don't necessarily own every cat-like monster with tentacles or, fleshy arms. But I just, these weird little monsters. And the title of this article says, does your gang need a mascot? The Outland Beastmasters can sort you out. Kind of being very cute. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but these guys are a little bit cute, aren't they? Like this one guy just going, bah. Like, isn't that, there's something I love about like the juxtaposition of something horrifying, but also adorable. Like, they're just gonna give you a big old hug and then just absolutely eviscerate you with that horrible maw full of fangs and teeth and tentacles and suckers and ugh. It's really, really gross, but these models are beautiful. And, you know, congratulations, Necromunda players. You got some super, super cool new miniatures. And the poor Dark Eldar are gonna have to wait a little bit longer to get, or long time, because we have no idea, to get their Beastmaster and their Urgals and their, what, furry horrors? The blue, like, Yeti type monsters and their razor wing flocks and all of their cool things. But yeah, really, really lovely and shockingly grotesque models for Games Workshop. Also, the Games Workshop rumor engine showed off a little something. And I don't really like the rumor engine because they always just show nothing and you have to wait for like the proper reveal of the thing to get excited or to know exactly what's going on. But this one's kind of weird because they just showed off the barrel of a gun and it is a high-las rotary cannon for the Leagues of Votann. Like the Hearthkin Pioneers have these attached to their bikes. And I think you can also take it on the, whatever the little party bus is. But it just is that gun. So does that mean that there's new Leagues of Votann stuff coming out? And if I was a Leagues of Votann player, which I was for like 8 days when I actually put together a Leagues of Votann army and then sold it on eBay, like the Codex just came out not that long ago. And if there's going to be new units coming for the Leagues of Votann, it'd be kind of frustrating if like already you're getting new stuff. It feels like they could have waited and had it all come out in the one Codex, or just, I don't know. It's frustrating. Like it could, there's a possibility that it's not a Leagues of Votann high-las rotary cannon and that maybe it's an Imperial Guard high-las rotary cannon, although they just got their Codex too. And so they also shouldn't be getting new stuff for a little while. But it's weird. It's a weird thing to show off. Hopefully it means that we're getting something cool for Kill Team because the squats could be coming to Kill Team. I mean, they must be coming to Kill Team because currently they're like the only faction in 40k that you can't take in Kill Team. But very, very interesting and odd. I like to think that somebody messed up at Games Workshop headquarters and they showed off a rumor engine that was supposed to be posted like 6 months ago. And people were like, oh, well, that's an interesting Imperial looking weapon. I wonder. And then the squats come out and people are like, oh my goodness, I never thought the squats would come back. But I don't know. It's just it's the rotary cannon from the squats. And it's possible because a lot of the squat technology is based on Imperial STCs from like the old age of humanity when Terra was still called Earth. Just a weird big ol' question mark. That's why I don't like the rumor engine posts. It's too little information. It's not enough to get excited about. Apparently it is enough to get annoyed about, but it's just a squat rotary cannon. What am I supposed to take away from that? Are we getting a new squat model or aren't we, Games Workshop? And what I also don't like is that you just find out, but you have to put the pieces together yourself. They don't, there's not an article that's like, oh, the rumor engine, here's that little thing we showed off, and here's the full thing. They just show off the full thing because nobody cares about the rumor engine. Sometimes it's cute. I think like a couple of years ago, they did a rumor engine showing off some of the Howling Banshees and some of the Exarchs and some of the new things coming for the Eldar. And they just showed it off basically. And there was no question. And they even changed the border to be, instead of like a weird computer screen where, we're getting, the Imperial scientists have found this piece of technology. They changed the computer thing to be Eldar technology. So they were just teasing the new Eldar releases. But the rumor engine is annoying. And there's a squat thing coming, and I don't know nothing about it. But speaking of things I know are coming, I put together my first Sylvaneth model. I got the Sylvaneth Battle Force, and I am slowly but surely putting all of these models together. This is Drycha Hamadreth. Rolls right off the tongue. And this model is awesome. I love the Sylvaneth. I know absolutely nothing about them. But I have an entire army now, and I'm looking at Games Workshop Web Store and looking at all the other things. I'm like, maybe I want to add some more Sylvaneth units to the force before I put them all together, because my plan is to put them all together in one session, just get them all painted. Definitely not assembled in one session. I am the slowest person in the world at building miniatures because I'm just a horrible perfectionist. I scrape every mold line. I fill the dumbest gaps that nobody would ever see once the model is actually painted. But I love this miniature. And also I get to experience the new 105mm oval base, which that's how lame I am. I get really excited when I get to experience a new basing size. It's smaller than the classic round oval base, which I believe is 120mm. Speaking of Games Workshop bases, I really don't like the new 28.5mm base. It's just really frustrating. I like big bases, and I cannot lie. I like when the model is completely over the base. It makes gaming a lot more fun. It means that the model's not gonna get knocked over very easily. I like big bases, love the 32mm base. Beautiful base, it fits the newer, taller, bigger Games Workshop models a lot better than the old 25mm base. The 28.5mm base is too close to the 25 and the 32 to be able to tell the difference. I have a huge bin of Games Workshop bases and just bases from all different companies, and I have to hold up a 25 or a 32 to double check if this really is a 28.5mm base. A lot of things are using it. The new Imperial Guard, I think the Leagues of Votann. A lot of normal human-sized things are now using the 28.5mm base, and it's annoying. I just put together some Black Templar neophytes, and they stand on the 28.5, and I spent like a good 15 minutes dumping out my entire box of bases to try to find my 10 28.5mm bases. I don't have a solution to this. I get the 28.5, I get that base, I understand why it exists, but maybe just make your models so that some things are grot size and they stand on a 25, and some things are human size and they stand on a 32. Because if something fits really well on the 28.5mm base, that means it'll fit on the 32mm base. And then I don't have to be ever so slightly inconvenienced, which is really the problem here. But yeah, 105mm base, I'm really excited to work on this. My Sylvaneth, my Tree Lords, are going to be the most fun I think I've ever had with basing because I get to go nuts. I'm gonna have them all in the forest. There's Epic Basing, has a bunch of tree bits that I'm going to put all over the bases. I'm trying out this new material called Sculptamold, which is plaster and paper pulp mixed together, and it does a really good job of giving really realistic terrain and texture. And so I'm gonna be building these bases up tall and beautiful, and I'm really, really excited. And if there's any 28.5mm bases in that Sylvaneth box, I'm gonna scream. I don't think there are. I think everything's on the old Games Workshop classics, except for the 105, which is a good size. It's not the dinner plate that like the Imperial Knight stands on or the Flyer large oval base, but it still feels like a really good miniature. Oh, Hamadreth. She has bees. I love bees. I actually know somebody who keeps bees. It's just a funny thing. Like, her weapon is releasing swarms of bees. There's actually 2 different weapon options. You can have bees, or you can have like these weird flying centipede-like creatures. I went for the bees, because you gotta pick the bees. But, just a wonderful, wonderful model. Not too hard to build. I was worried about all these little spiky things that, like, a lot of these were gonna be separate and annoying to glue on, but no. The Sylvaneth are solid, solid models. And I'd spend a lot of money on the Christmas Battle Force, but I might spend a whole bunch more money on grass tufts and static grass, maybe a static grass applicator, because I really want to play around with how realistic and natural can I get these bases to look. And I was thinking about color schemes, and originally my thought process was just go classic nature, green, brown, like dark umber and tan. But I saw some really cool color schemes online, and now I'm wondering if I want to do kind of more of a magical forest. So right now I'm thinking like dark brown, blue, and magenta could be really cool. I don't get to play around with colors enough, and it's my own fault because I play Black Templar, but I really want these guys to be just colorful and a little psychedelic, and I'm really, really excited for this Sylvaneth. I think it's gonna be a great change of pace for the things that I typically paint, and I'm really looking forward to it. I don't really know that much, or actually I don't know anything about the Sylvaneth other than they look like trees, so I've been looking to see like some material that I can read to get a good understanding of the Sylvaneth. There's a book called Legends of Age of Sigmar paperback. It's a series of short novellas, and apparently a lot of them feature the Sylvaneth, so apparently that's a really good one to get some good Sylvaneth insight. And there's a novel called Dark Harvest by Josh Reynolds, and that's a spooky story. Actually, I've read a couple of short stories from the Age of Sigmar Black Library. I think it's called the same thing, the Age of Sigmar Black Library, but that's really kind of a 40K term. But they are actually kind of spooky and scary, and I really do like it. I'm working my way through Mark of Faith by Rachel Harrison. I've been listening to the audiobook, and it's really good. It's not, I don't think, it's a weird one because it's so 40K, and so it's like really grim and serious all the time, always. And so it's hard to recommend this book because I think a lot of people are going to start reading it and just have their eyes roll right into the back of their head because it is the most 40K of the 40K books I've ever read, but I really like it. It's a little cliche, it's a little hokey, but that's what I like about 40K. It's a fantasy world and it's fun. I've been listening to it on Audible, which is my favorite place to listen to audiobooks. I have quite the Audible library. I believe I have 69 titles in total, which is perfect. I almost don't want to buy any more just so that it always says 69 at the top of my Audible account. If any of you would like to give Audible a try, you can follow our link in the description below, and you get to keep a free book and help support Eon's Battle. Win-win. And speaking of winning, Henry Cavill is set to produce an Amazon Prime show set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Mind blown. This is something that we've kind of heard about before. I think a few years ago, there was rumblings that they were working on an Eisenhorn TV show, but it fell through and nothing ever came of it. But this presumably is happening, although we're in the incredibly early stages. We're definitely not going to see anything for a couple of years. It might be a year before we get any real concrete information on what this show is or what it's going to be. But Henry Cavill is set to star in and executive produce the show, which seems to be a really good sign. Number one, he looks like just about every single character from Warhammer 40,000. And he stars in like big budget CGI fest stuff. So he's a great person to be part of this. One thing that does have me a little bit worried is 40K and live action don't really mix. I can definitely be wrong about this, but I've seen pretty much every like Warhammer fan film and short film out there, and the animated ones are always great because animation is really easy to show off these big, giant, grand, dumb, silly things and have it make sense. Because when you're watching something animated, you immediately are in their world that they create, and they show that to you through art style and their design. Live action is always graded against reality, and Space Marines don't look good in reality. Either, I guess they could like make everything super detailed, kind of like some of the video games like Deathwing, where things are a lot more realistic than they exist on the tabletop or in like the codexes. Or what I maybe think that they should do, because you have to show off Space Marines, they're the most popular thing in Warhammer, redesign the Space Marine armor so that it actually looks pretty good on a real person. I think that would be really, really cool to see. Definitely look at probably some of the Primarchs from the Forge World range, because a lot of them have their Artificer armor, which actually looks like real armor that could exist in the real world. You probably wouldn't have to change things too dramatically, but currently all Space Marines have the physique of Buzz Lightyear. And that looks great in Toy Story, but it's gonna look really weird when you have like Henry Cavill and real actors walking around next to these big toys, like literally big toys. And so I bet that they can handle it. I bet that it works out fine, but that is the thing that I am most interested to see because I can't picture it in my head. Actually, I guess I can picture it in my head because I'm thinking back to all those short films I've seen where people have made these movies with their cosplay Space Marine armor, and their Space Marine armor looks really good in photos, but in motion, it's just creaky and wobbly and wiggly, and their legs are too big. I am super excited to see how they tackle it. I bet that I'm writing the show now. So, it's basically Eisenhorn. It's set on an Imperial world, maybe Inquisitors, maybe some other just group of humans that are doing something in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. And then the mid-season cliffhanger is, oh my goodness, the Space Marines have arrived. That's how you do it. And then people are like, oh my goodness. And then you have to wait a couple of months. And then it's like, how are they going to do the Space Marines? Probably Blood Angels, because they're like the most popular Space Marines. Probably not Black Templar, because Black Templar are a lot much. Ooh, Space Wolves could be kind of fun. But yeah, that's how you do it. One thing I would caution everybody out there about this show is it might suck. And that's completely and totally okay. One little bee in my bonnet that I've had for a while now is the proliferation of like film and TV criticism and how it's seeped into every single possible social media outlet. And it's kind of a huge bummer and a buzzkill. When this show comes out, no matter what you think about it, you're gonna see YouTube videos, Facebook posts, all of these different things critiquing every single possible element and moment from the show. And I don't think that's healthy. I've pretty much unsubscribed from all of my Star Wars Facebook groups because people are such buzzkills about the Star Wars movies. It's completely fine if you do not like them at all. But I was reading a post yesterday where somebody was in a Star Wars Legion group, and they really like the nerdy, dumb, lame biker gang from the Boba Fett show. These punk kids who are on these silly scooters, and he's like, I really like these silly scooters. Does anybody have any ideas of what kits I could buy so that I could kit bash them into these scooter gangs? Because I want to have them for Star Wars Legion. And a bunch of comments were just like, that show was garbage, that show is lame, you shouldn't want to do that. Just dumping on this poor kid. And there's a time and a place for stuff like that. Like if you're watching a YouTube video of a critique of Boba Fett, that's the comment section to go full, into all of your ideas of what could have been better, what things were wrong, what things were bad. But you don't have to do that all the time. It really ruins people's enjoyment and it doesn't help. I know that the idea is if we can complain loudly enough, they're gonna change things. I don't think that that's how things work. I think the only thing that leads to change in these movies and TV shows is money. If people stop going to see them, they're gonna change. They're gonna change the ship. They're gonna change course. Just everybody being a little salty all the time, always, just leads to the fans not having a great time. And again, it doesn't mean if you didn't like something, shut up about it, but it means pick your battles. If somebody is really having a good time, if somebody posts like, oh, I'm working on my Rey cosplay and I'm trying to get all of the things to lay just right, the first comment shouldn't be, ugh, Rey is a horrible character, or that movie stunk, or that movie sucks. Because liking something is just like a binary feeling. It's you liked it or you didn't. Both things are completely equal and both things are completely fine. When you are watching something, you're not running, at least you shouldn't be, you're not running through a checklist of, okay, the writing was decent, the cinematography was maybe a little bit lacking, but the overall story structure, okay, I've checked all these boxes. I am willing to bestow my enjoyment upon this piece of art. That's not really how it works. That is how it works for film criticism. But criticism is just such a tiny little thing that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is if you liked it or you didn't. I love the movie Goodfellas. Beautiful movie. I also really love the movie The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Not a beautiful movie, but I find a lot of things to appreciate and enjoy about that movie. Luckily, it's super old, so the people who like it still talk about it and nobody else has ever seen it, and that is just fine. Although if you haven't seen it, it's a really fun little steampunk Marvel movie before there were Marvel movies. I think it's a really fun watch. But yeah, just understand that, when this show comes out, there's gonna be a lot of attention given to it. And, the race to see who can hate something the most is a really good way to make money. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good or bad, or that you'll like it or you don't like it. Just give it a try, or, if somebody, if your mom is like, oh, it really wasn't that good, and you trust your mom's opinion, then yeah, you probably don't have to check it out. I'm sure that's what's gonna happen, because if you didn't know this, Warhammer 40K, super popular with moms. So I hope I explained myself well. I'm not saying to keep your mouth shut, I'm just saying pick your battles, don't ruin somebody else's enjoyment. And I don't know, maybe just keep it to yourself sometimes. And if you find somebody that you can just talk with and be like, oh, didn't that thing suck? Yeah, when the thingy was in the thing and that didn't make any sense and it broke the lore. Like, those conversations are amazing and wonderful. I love the Star Wars prequels, specifically because of how ridiculously wrong everything about those movies is. And I've seen them hundreds of times. I grew up with those movies. And it's so much fun to get into those conversations about how, like, the story doesn't make any sense or the characters are weird or Watto exists. All of those things bring me so much joy and fun, but, you know, you gotta pick the moments for that. You don't just blast that out to the world at all times. And so I'm very excited for this show. I'll give it a try when it's coming out in, 14 years, when it actually is coming to Amazon Prime. Amazon might not even exist by the time the show comes out. Maybe the brand wars have already happened and Disney owns them outright. But I'm excited, and I'm very happily looking forward to this new show. But you know what else I'm looking forward to happily? That's right, our Patreon. Over there, we have new terrain packs every single month. This month, we have the Wasteland cars ready to drive donuts around your game boards. We also make one extra episode of Eons of Battle every single week where we take a look at our viewers' miniatures and give them some helpful critiques on how to improve. We also host Patreon-only hangouts, and we have painting guide PDFs. Ooh, and we have a new tier where you can get your name on one of my Black Templar Space Marines, and you can join the Legion. I'm really excited to continue working on my Sylvaneth. It's kind of my New Year's project, and if you guys are looking for any New Year's projects or any new miniatures for any game system, you should shop at Valhalla Hobby. Shop with the code EOB12 to save 5% off your first order. Drycha Hamadreth. Drycha Hamadreth. I'm gonna have to write that on I'm gonna have to have some Sylvaneth flashcards put up around my bedroom so I can actually get some of these names right, but I gotta get to building. Thanks for watching.